Get back to the markets then, and let's get back to the show rather after we address the record high for the benchmark industry. And it's indeed a Paathshala day.
Absolutely. It's Friday. So yes, we have Kunal Bothra who's standing by with the buy now, sell now Paathshala. And very good morning to you, Kunal. And what's new today?
Good morning. So even though the markets are full green, but the topic today is on red. That's bearish engulfing, but it's more of an extension of what we discussed in the previous Paathshala session, which is on the bullish engulfing side. So this is something which is complete contra in terms of how the setup gets built when a stock gets into a top formation on the short term basis, and from there the journey starts off when the stock gets into a corrective wave. So we've looked at a couple of examples for bearish engulfing as a candlestick pattern, and that clearly is an indication that stocks form a near term to medium term top. Depends on in which time frame you see this kind of a bearish engulfing pattern. So this was the charts for UPL, one of the stocks which have been plagued with a lot of correction over the last many years. And I think one of the major reasons why the stock has been seeing correction time and again is the reoccurrence of bearish engulfing pattern. So this was the charts for UPL. Very recently you saw the stock forming a bearish engulfing pattern. By bearish engulfing, the simple understanding is that the red candlestick body or the entire candlestick tends to just about engulf the entire previous candlestick pattern for the stock price. Whenever that happens, it is an expectation that the near-term trend has changed on the bearish side and the stock goes into a downtrend. So on the first occurrence of a bearish engulfing pattern, you see the correction which has happened post into the stock price. So from a level of 770 approximately, the stock fell down to as much as 666, 680, 690 mark, which is a decent correction of more than 10% for the stock. We'll see one more example, but more on the short-term time frame of what happened in Tata Steel. And if you've seen many of the metal stocks, Tata Steel is the only stock in the metal name which has been a recent underperformer. And the clear reason for that, as you can see, that after a decent uptrend which the stock had shown, there was an occurrence of a bearish engulfing pattern which happened at the top for Tata Steel. This was around the 184 to 185 mark, and from there the stock has gone through a gradual correction. So this generally is a classical case where stock goes into an uptrend, pauses for some time, but then if the trend reverses, we typically see a bearish engulfing pattern for stocks emerging.
All right, so that's about the stocks. Kunal, any in the recent study that you've done on the sectoral indices, have you come across any of them reflecting this sort of a pattern? Because no doubt the markets are on high. There are certain pockets of the market that have not performed as well as rest of the market, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and I think PSU Bank was one of the sectors where we'd seen bearish engulfing pattern sometime back. This is almost like 2-3 weeks back, and that's one of the major reasons why you've seen PSU banking stocks underperform. But off late, fortunately, no bearish engulfing pattern, at least on the indices front majorly.
So after the bearish engulfing pattern, when do you know that that bearish period for a sector or the stock is over? Is it something that we learn in the next editions of Paathshala, or is it something that you just learn by experience?
Yeah, you learn by experience, and I think, as I said at the start, Cheryl, that it depends on the time frame you're looking out for. So if you're looking at the daily chart, and if you're looking at maybe a 20-day reversal, 20-day upside, then the stock goes into maybe a 3-day to 5-day kind of odd correction. So we generally tend to divide this by 3 or 4, depending on the time frame of the number of days the stock has seen an uptrend. But if you see this bearish engulfing pattern more on the weekly and the monthly charts, the impact is more prolonged. So we saw this bearish engulfing pattern in 2022 start for the Nifty IT index on the monthly and the quarterly chart, and from there you've seen that the IT index went into a prolonged almost 2.5 years of correction. So it all depends on the time frame you're looking out for.
All right, Kunal, one more question for you. I know that we are throwing up a lot of questions today, but this is indeed a very important candlestick pattern. But is it important to actually track the open and the close of the next day as well? Because once this candle is made, what you're saying is that the downtrend actually continues for a stock. But looking at the open or the high of just the day ahead, is it important to take a call then?
So I think if we can go to the example again, I think it will be much more easier for me to try and explain. So if you look at the example, a simple way to look out for is, say, for example, UPL. Now the stock over here forms a major bearish engulfing pattern, which means the body of the entire candle gets engulfed into the body of the previous candle. Now this low becomes an initial trigger. So if the stock breaks below this closing or the low, then it's a classic indicator that the trend has reversed for the stock. So which means that the weakness which prolonged through the entire candle. So on this case, since it's a daily chart, the weakness which entailed over here continues to have an effect on the next following candle as well. So it all depends on what time frame, as I said, you're looking out for. But an ideal way to try and trade is to wait out for the breakdown when the previous low is broken out of the candle, and once that gets confirmed, it's a good time to try and go for a fresh short.
All right, then that is all about bearish engulfing pattern, and we could ask and actually throw up so many questions to Kunal as much as we could. But hopefully, when in the next edition, we will get a deeper understanding of how you see a bearish engulfing pattern and when you can actually say the tide has turned. Thank you so much, Kunal, as always, helping us understand something new on every Friday on Buy Now, Sell Now Paathshala. But